Hilary Benn talking about racist thuggery in Belfast this week reminds me of a conversation in the early 1930s in Germany about rowdy anti-Semitism. Let's talk about the far right and links to the Nazis. I'm Professor Gallagher. I wrote the book Genocide and its Threat to Contemporary International Order. So the identity-based violence that we've seen in Belfast this week has been horrific. Essentially, groups of largely men set out to terrorise migrants and other groups in an attempt to make them leave. But this also exposes a dilemma in the political discourse, because when people like me warn of the potential for the far right to perpetrate mass violence, we get told that we are fear-mongering, which can unintentionally help the far right because then we get labelled as loony left. Now I get it, right? Invoking the Nazis when talking about contemporary far right may for some seem to be going too far. It's nonsense. But as a professor that specialises in all this stuff, let me run you through it. Nazis perceived the Jews to be a problem, just like the far right perceived migrants to be the problem. The underlying logic, therefore, is the same. We don't want you here. And throughout history, studies on mass violence show this is often anchored on a security dimension, i.e. if we don't destroy you today, we fear that you will destroy us tomorrow. The problem's the same. It's just that I think it's the methods and the tactics that people think, well, they're not really going to go that far, are they? So let's go back to the 1930s, because the Nazis were conscious that what they perceived to be the Jewish problem was going to be challenging to solve because of basically three things. First, defining a Jew wasn't easy, and this changed throughout the 1930s, and the far right have this problem now. If both my parents were born in Ireland, does that mean that I should be deported? Second, the Nazis knew that there was widespread anti-Semitism throughout Europe and indeed large parts of the world, and other countries wouldn't want to take in the Jews. Just like now, other countries won't want to take in UK migrants, asylum seekers and refugees. And third, the Nazis knew that they were going to invade countries which had millions and millions of Jews in them. So their problem was only going to get a lot bigger, a lot faster. Now that point is not really relevant for this discussion. Initially, the Nazis focused on terrorising Jews, think Kristallnacht 1938, and this was followed by the first mass deportation when 17,000 Polish Jews were rounded up and expelled to the Polish border. Now, of course, we've seen groups such as Reform call for mass deportations, and we've also seen the reign of terror in Belfast this week. Now, in 1934, if you were in Germany, nobody perceived that they were going to start putting Jews in gas chambers, right? But it was precisely in 1934, 5 years before Adolf Hitler made his public speech in which he mentioned annihilating the Jews, that Heydrich set out a chilling vision of what was to come. He said the methods of rowdy anti-Semitism are to be rejected. You do not fight rats with a revolver, you fight them with poison and gas. To go back to the start, the violence in Belfast has been labelled racist thuggery, just like the violence in the mid-1930s in Germany was labelled rowdy anti-Semitism. Now this violence in and of itself is horrifying, whether it's Belfast this week or Kristallnacht 1938, and if the far right get into power and use such methods, this in and of itself will fundamentally change the countries we live in. But what happens if these methods are deemed not to be enough?